This is Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. In today's episode, I share 3 things that I'm already implementing in my new year that are serving me well, and I want you to know that you can do them too. So tune in and don't forget to check the show notes, because if you're one of the many people who's already feeling a little lost in this new year, you can grab my Dreams to Goals quick course, as well as check out the beautiful details of my next destination retreat. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Do you want simple steps to level up your mind, body, and spirit, or encouragement as you navigate the challenges of motherhood? Or maybe you need a dose of hope to achieve that goal? Then you've tuned in to the right podcast. This is Keep Blooming, and I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Each week, I'll encourage you to drop the hustle mentality for hope and act on the dreams God has put on your heart. I'm a licensed Ziegler life coach. I've created a theater ministry, and like you, I'm doing all the things as a Catholic, a wife, and a mom to 3 boys. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Hello, welcome to Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Today, I want to share with you 3 things that I focused on my last destination retreat that are already more than paying off early on in the new year. And I just want to share them with you because I want to encourage you that it's not too late if you're already derailed. You know, we passed the benchmark for people falling off that New Year's resolution wagon. Amazingly enough, that usually happens about 2.5 weeks into a new year. And so if that happened to you, you're not alone. And I'm not here to scold you. I'm here to give you some simple tips to help you move forward. And, you know, that's sad, but at the same time, it's not surprising. And that's why, a few years back, as I started to develop my coaching practice, I dropped the whole resolution terminology and focused on goals, setting goals well. And not only that, but just breaking them down into steps to, actually hit a target date. So I'm going to be sharing what I learned and focused on my last destination retreat. Yes, I hosted it, but it was also for me to do some deep annual planning that has already paid off in this new year. But before we do that, let's do a little Lectio Divina. And this is from Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. On your own intelligence do not rely. In all your ways be mindful of him, and he will make straight your paths. This is a popular one and one of my favorites. And I love that line, be mindful of him. I asked this of a client not too long ago to look at her life through God's eyes. If there are any Prince of Egypt fans out there, you know that song, Look at Your Life Through Heaven's Eyes. It's so good. Go listen to it. But really, do it and be mindful of him. This is in your routine day. This is in your relationships. This is in your career or your performance at work. How can you be mindful of him? And how can he help you? And how can you glorify him by using your gifts to serve in the world? I know I just said a lot there, but there is a lot going on in this passage in life. And I have found with most of the clients that I work with, the peace of mind that they're searching for is this line here, being mindful of him. So really take some time with that for sure. There's so much to unpack just in those few verses. So I'm so glad we'll come back to that at the end. But back to what I wanted to share with you about my last destination retreat and what I focused on and have taken with me into this new year. The first is more is not the same as better. What I mean by that is, I think, especially in our culture, and especially for any of you who have your own business and you may, be on social media because you have to be and so forth, you feel like you always have to be churning something out. That doesn't necessarily make your voice better. I think narrowing down your focus, your niche, if you will, focusing on what you do well is almost better than trying to have your hand in every little thing. So, for example, a couple of things I did to make an adjustment for myself. In my business, I actually pared down my writing schedule. I write for a couple of online communities, and I was writing for each of them monthly. That got to be a lot. And I started to think about how sometimes just churning stuff out is more noise than actually intentional good work, right? So for both of those platforms, I pared down to writing quarterly. I immediately felt relief. And I am so excited that I can batch work those articles and just my goal is to get all of them done for this new year in one swoop. And that is going to free up so much of my time and my energy, while at the same time giving the reader, the best of what I have to offer. Okay. In my personal life, where I kind of focused on more isn't the same as better, right? I mean, we've been working on this as a family, and I've been working on this personally for a while, because if you follow any of what I do, you know that I'm not the hustle person, right? But I really honed in on my time blocking schedule. So between homeschooling and coaching and some other things that I like to do. And I really made sure, especially that homeschooling time block piece was completely uninterrupted. So my workday, it really doesn't start until around 11. And just having that super focused time, and just my son knowing that he's first is super important for both of us. And I have to tell you, it makes me so much more productive when I sit down to work, because I know that he's been taken care of. I know the time that I have. So if that's something you're struggling with, I really encourage you to sit down with your schedule and actually block out chunks of time for family, for work, for, I don't know, taking care of stuff around the house, whatever it may be. And then okay? And not only that, if for some reason, something weird happens that day and, you can't plan for everything, if you do get off schedule, then when you come back to things, right where you left off, and, what time you have to quote unquote make up for. More is not always better. Okay. Sometimes it's just more confusion, more noise. So hold on to things lightly, and don't be afraid to loosen up the reins a little bit. The second thing that I focused on while I was on retreat was deep work paired with specific action. And here's what I mean by that. Sometimes we need to do a lot of work on our mindset, on our spiritual life, even our physical self, to inspire us and to remind ourselves of what keeps us motivated. So taking time to read, paying attention what you're listening to and what you're seeing with your eyes every day on screens, and just really paying attention to that and making sure that it's leveling up your mind, body, and spirit is huge. And what I mean by mindful action is really focused on your goals. So knowing what your goals are, and then asking yourself, is what I'm about to do bringing me closer to or further from my goal? Or closer to or further from the life I want to be living? Really take that time, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, whenever it is right for you to schedule, and sit with your goals, read them over every day. Take some time to talk to God about it, and take some time to fill your mind with some good stuff, whether that's reading, whether that's an awesome playlist you have, something that inspires you that you love looking at, but really take that time to soak it in and pair that with taking a specific action each day, even if it's one thing, that will really take you further, because small changes like that add up over time more than the big 10x stuff. I've shared this before, and I just feel like when you start taking the huge steps and 10xing things, you're more likely to burn yourself out. And if you take it step by step and just a little bit slower and more mindful, you're going to go much further. The third thing I want to remind you of, and I shared this a little bit about at the beginning, now is always a good time to begin. Some of you may be thinking, well, Liz, you just said be mindful. And I don't mean be careless by saying now is always a good time to begin. That's not what I mean at all. But something that a lot of people fall into, and I know that I've done it in the past, is just overthinking things. Don't overthink it. Take a small step and then another and then another. Just step out in faith and see what happens. And when you start to see the fruits of your actions, the confidence is going to build and the path will become clearer. But you're not going to see it until you start walking it. So now is always a good time to start. And it's never too late to start. I don't care how old you are. You can always start fresh. And I know that so well in my life. I have rebuilt my family life. I have rebuilt my career. And it's just never too late to do those things and know that there is hope on the other side of it, truly. So remember, more isn't always better. Do some deep work and pair that with some mindful action in small steps. And last but not least, it's always a good time to begin. All right, let's go back to our Lexio. And it's Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. On your own intelligence do not rely. In all your ways be mindful of him, and he will make straight your paths. Right? So if you're mindful of him, he will show you the path, but you have to step out in faith. Let's get growing and keep blooming. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Keep Blooming. Tune in every Wednesday for a dose of hope and encouragement. You can find this podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts. To be the first to know about my upcoming retreats and latest offerings, be sure to hop onto my email list. Have a wonderful week, and remember to keep blooming.